This is live from New Delhi. You're watching DT India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. Hamas agrees for Gaza ceasefire, urges US President-elect Donald Trump to pressure Israel to end the ongoing conflict. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi sets off 150th birth anniversary celebrations of Bhagwan Birsa Munda, unveils key projects for the tribal community. At COP29, calls grow to ban fossil fuel lobbyists as world leaders urge action and not just negotiations. After much reluctance to ceasefire talks, Hamas's political bureau member Bassem Naim has said on Friday that the group is ready for a ceasefire in Gaza and has urged US President-elect Donald Trump to pressure Israel to end the aggression. Attempts at talks started early November, with the sides pushing for an end to all hostilities, the release of thousands of hostages and the return of all the displaced people to their homes. Earlier, the Qatar, which was acting as a mediator during the ceasefire talks, made an announcement that it had stepped back from talks, saying it would resume once Israel and Hamas show willingness and seriousness. In other news, in a move towards resolving ongoing tensions, senior Iranian official Ali Larajini has engaged in discussions with Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri to explore a ceasefire possibilities in Lebanon. The significant diplomatic interaction was made public through a post from Iran's embassy in Lebanon, shared on the social media platform X. The negotiations mark a crucial step in mediating conflict and seeking peace in the region, reflecting the efforts of both nations' leadership. Well, US President Donald Trump is poised to assume office in January. Diplomatic overtures appear to be exhilarating to address the escalating Middle East tensions, signaling a do it now or face it later kind of an approach. This sentiment was echoed through significant back-channel meetings and proposals which were aimed at easing the multifaceted Israel-Hamas-Hezbollah conflict and broader regional instability. DD India's Akhilesh Suman reports.
Is reporting that President-elect Donald Trump's team is engaging with key persons on the diplomatic front. According to the New York Times, on November 11th, tech billionaire Elon Musk, known for his close ties to President-elect Donald Trump, held a meeting with Iran's ambassador to the UN, Amir Saeed Iravani. The meeting, described by Iranian sources as positive, lasted over an hour. The New York Times reports the encounter as a critical first step in fostering US-Iran diplomacy under the incoming administration. The Musk-Iravani dialogue hints at a departure from the more aggressive policies of the Republican establishment. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has previously expressed openness to mending ties with the West, adding further weight to this engagement. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is pursuing last-ditch efforts to mediate between Lebanon and Israel. On Thursday, US Ambassador to Lebanon, Dorothy Shee, presented a draft truce proposal to Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri. Sources indicate this is Washington's first formal written attempt in weeks to halt fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. The US Embassy in Beirut confirmed ongoing diplomatic efforts, while Israel's energy minister highlighted an increasingly promising outlook for a ceasefire. In a parallel development, senior Lebanese officials signaled Hezbollah's willingness to withdraw forces from the Israeli border under specific conditions. This renewed diplomatic push comes amid relentless violence. Israel has intensified its military campaign in Lebanon alongside its operations in Gaza. Key to any ceasefire is adherence to UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which calls for Hezbollah to withdraw fighters and weapons from border areas. The US and other powers view this resolution as the foundation for peace, though its implementation remains fraught with challenges. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
US President-elect Donald Trump has been selecting his top team since winning the polls last week, with 4 names announced just recently. Trump picked 3 members of his legal defense team, including lead attorney Todd Blanche, to serve in the senior role at the Justice Department. Trump has nominated Blanche, who defended him at hush money trial this year, and he will serve as a Deputy Attorney General, the second highest position at the Justice Department. Earlier, Trump announced the name of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the United States top health agency. In a post on social media platform X, Kennedy vowed to work to end chronic disease, clean up corruption, and provide Americans with the data they need to make informed decisions. Kennedy ran for president in this year's election as an independent before dropping out in August and endorsing Trump. Trump has also nominated former U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Jay Clayton to serve as Manhattan's top federal prosecutor. President-elect Donald Trump later announced that he plans to select North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum as his nominee to be the Secretary of the Department of the Interior. He has been North Dakota's governor for the 2 times since 2016. Staying with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, on Thursday he praised Argentinian President Javier Milei for the job he's done in his home country, calling on Milei to make Argentina great again, quote-unquote. Trump was speaking at a gala at his Mar-a-Lago, Florida retreat, which was attended by the Argentine president, who delivered a speech before Trump's comments. The fall in Argentina's country risk, a measure of investment exposure, is crucial to the country's access to international credit. This comes as the country prepares to renegotiate a massive $44 billion loan agreement with the International Monetary Fund due in December.
Javier, I'd like to congratulate you on the job you've done for Argentina. Your speech was beautiful, but the job you've done is incredible. Make Argentina great again. You know, MAGA. He's a MAGA person.
And now some stories and news from India. India is celebrating the birth anniversary of Bhagwan Birsa Munda as Janjatiya god of Divas. Indian President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar and other eminent dignitaries paid their floral tributes to Bhagwan Birsa Munda at Parliament. Bhagwan Birsa Munda fought bravely against the exploitative system of the British colonial system and spearheaded the movement against British oppression, giving a call for revolution. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi marked the commencement of the 150th birth anniversary year celebration of Bhagwan Birsa Munda on the occasion of Janjatiya god of Divas. Prime Minister Modi laid the foundation stone and inaugurated various development projects worth around 6,640 crore rupees in Jamui district, Bihar today, which were aimed at uplifting tribal communities and improving infrastructure in rural and remote areas of the region. Prime Minister Modi released a commemorative stamp as well and unveiled a commemorative coin on the occasion, which highlights the important role of tribal groups in preserving India's heritage and advancing its progress. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also inaugurated an exhibition based on the life of Bhagwan Birsa Munda and rich tribal heritage and culture. Prime Minister also inaugurated 2 tribal freedom fighters museums and 2 tribal research institutes, which are intended to preserve the rich history and heritage of tribal communities. In the past decade, the recognition and celebration of tribal culture has seen a notable transformation, and the government, or the Indian government under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has been the torchbearer in the efforts to make India's tribes and their culture go global. Here's more.
On November 15th, India observed the Janjatiya God of Divas, or the Tribal Pride Day, a day dedicated to celebrating the legacy of Bhagwan Birsa Munda. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the first Prime Minister to foster a close, respectful relationship with India's tribal communities. In the past decade, the recognition and celebration of tribal culture have seen a notable transformation. PM Modi has amplified the voices of tribal communities. By presenting tribal artworks to world leaders, PM Modi fosters a global appreciation for India's tribal cultures, encouraging dialogue and recognition. Among these gifts, Dokra art, known for its intricate metalwork and deep historical roots, has been given to leaders from Australia, Brazil, Cook Islands, and Tonga. Sohrai paintings from Jharkhand were gifted to Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Gond paintings from Madhya Pradesh to Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Celebrated for its vibrant colors and intricate patterns. Leaders from Uzbekistan and Comoros were honored with Varli paintings from Maharashtra. Recognition of tribal products through geographical indication tags has grown in momentum. 5 tribal products now officially tagged. This effort to empower tribal artisans aligns with the government's Vocal for Local initiative, transforming traditional crafts into recognized brands. Over 300 tribal heritage conservation centers have been established to document, archive, and promote the diverse languages, traditions, and cultural practices of tribal communities. In 2024, several items received GI tags, including the Japi, a bamboo hat from Assam, the Dongria Kondh shawl from Odisha, Yak Churpi, a fermented product from Arunachali yak milk, Similipal, Kai chutney, made from red weaver ants in Odisha, and the Bodo Aronai, a traditional woven cloth from the Bodo community. PM Modi has honored Bhagwan Birsa Munda by declaring November 15 as Janjatiya Gaurav Divas. He became the first Prime Minister to visit Munda's birthplace in Ulihatu, Jharkhand. The Bhagwan Birsa Munda Memorial Park and Freedom Fighter Museum in Ranchi, featuring a 25-foot statue of Munda, underscores this recognition. In celebration of his 150th birth anniversary, a grand statue of Munda was installed at the Vanvasi Kalyan Ashram in Sri Vijayapuram, accompanied by Gaurav Yatra carrying the statue across various locations before its final installation. The Indian government's commitment to the country's tribal communities is reflected in various efforts and bringing their voices and stories to the world. Antara Sinha for DD India.
On the occasion of Dev Deepavali, India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar visited the holy city of Varanasi to take part in the grand ceremony. Vice President Dhankar inaugurated Namo Ghat in presence of Uttar Pradesh Governor Anandiben Patel and State Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath to mark the opening of the festival on the banks of river Ganga. The festival of Dev Deepavali is celebrated across India on the auspicious day of Kartik Purnima as per the Hindu calendar every year. Shifting focus to parliamentary elections in Sri Lanka, where the alliance of Sri Lanka's new leader, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, has secured a landslide win as it secured a two-thirds majority in the parliament. The leftist coalition, the National People's Power, has performed exceedingly well as compared to their September presidential election performance. Here's a report.
Sri Lankans on Friday handed Anura Kumara Dissanayake-led National People's Party a thumping win in a snap general election, as it crossed the majority mark of 113, giving its new president greater legislative power to pursue his reform agenda and policies to fight graft as the country recovers from a financial meltdown. The leftist coalition has performed exceedingly well as compared to the September presidential election, where it had secured only 42% votes. The coalition has performed well across the island. The votes secured by opposition parties led by Sajit Premadasa and former President Ranil Wickremesinghe have been relegated to the sidelines with a hugely reduced verdict. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, which romped home to a landslide victory in previous parliamentary elections, has been pushed to fourth position, with its vote share dwindling to just 3%. Earlier on Thursday, voting was held across the island with a turnout of about 65%. With inputs from Dr. Ahmed Muin Faruqi in Colombo, Bureau Report, DD India.
In other news, on the first day of the Great World Race in Antarctica, William Munsell and Ashley Paulson set new record times for the marathon. The event sees 54 entrants from 15 countries competing over 7 marathons on 7 continents in a week. The Colombian Parliament approved a law banning marriages under the age of 18. It ends a 137-year-old law in the country's civil code which allowed under 18s to marry with parental consent. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Coming up next, in Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz is under pressure from his party to pave the way for a successor ahead of the snap polls. Protesters in Georgia's breakaway region of Abkhazia stormed the parliament.
We are doing a deep dive into security dynamics in the Indo-Pacific region and also what this means going into the future for India and its rising position in the world.
The Quad has now become a foundational block within the Indo-Pacific, and the Biden administration has continued that momentum. Now, I don't see Trump Part 2 walking away from that, again, because it's something that they helped to resurrect.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Sakal, but let's move on now. Olaf Scholz, Germany's least popular chancellor on record, is facing growing calls within his Social Democrats to step aside and let his defense minister, Boris Pistorius, instead lead the centre-left party into next year's federal polls. Germany is set to hold a snap election on February 23rd after Scholz' ideologically diverse three-way coalition of SPD, Greens and neoliberal Free Democrats collapsed last week following months of infighting. Scholz has said that he wants to run for a second term. However, the final decision is likely to be announced at a party congress in January. Well, staying with news in Germany, Germany's return to nuclear power would be the logical choice. That's what the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, says during the COP climate talks in Baku. Germany has been struggling with securing energy since Russia's war in Ukraine started in 2022. And the debate about restarting these power plants is continuously growing. For more on how this could impact Germany's energy mix, we have with us Warda Imran joining us live from Berlin. Warda, thank you for joining us. Now, first things first, Germany's phased out this nuclear power plants very recently. Help us understand what caused them to approach it in such a different way.
Thanks for having me. I think it was definitely the realization that Germany depended on other countries such as Russia in the last decade or so to secure its own energy. I think that's why German politicians and political parties are ready to talk about nuclear power again after having agreed to completely phasing it out more than a decade ago. Back then, nuclear energy accounted for more than 13% of Germany's total energy, which was a lot. So Germany is the only country in the world to have completely phased out nuclear energy. And so the IAEA, or the Atomic Energy Agency, said that Berlin's lawmakers are probably wondering why they are the only ones to have done so, while the others are thinking of expanding on nuclear energy. While the initial phase-out planned by Germany was to prevent any accidents or threats to life, the decision appears to be short-sighted. The IAEA chief said that nuclear power plants virtually emit no damaging greenhouse gas emissions, which makes it perfect for the phase-out of fossil fuels. Politicians and parties here are looking into the feasibility of restarting these plants.
Thank you very much, Warda Imran, for joining us live from Berlin. And now let's move on to the latest coming in from Russia-Ukraine conflict, with the United Nations has issued a warning on Friday regarding the potential impact of renewed Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure this winter. Now, according to the United Nations, such attacks could lead to additional displacement of civilians. At the same time, Ukraine has rejected claims that the country is shifting its focus on the conflict to prioritize security over land. It added that it remained committed to territorial integrity.
I think Russian propaganda is super active, and it's worrisome that our European partners are spreading it. So first of all, we're fighting for the values, freedom, national interests, and territorial integrity is a part of our values. It's our country. Our priority is still to protect people, protect the nation, to liberate people from the temporary occupation.
Protesters in Georgia's Russia-backed breakaway region of Abkhazia stormed the parliament despite police presence. Demonstrators have been rallying against an investment agreement with Moscow. Protesters and opposition leaders say that the deal would lead to rise in property rates in the region and would in turn trigger a housing crisis. Russia recognized Abkhazia and another breakaway region, South Ossetia, as independent states in 2008 after a 5-day conflict with Georgia. At the COP29 summit in Baku, India has highlighted that the impacts of climate change are increasingly becoming evident in form of one disaster to another. Intervening on the behalf of like-minded developing countries, India reiterated that the developed countries need to commit to provide and mobilize at least 1.3 trillion every year, $1.3 trillion every year till 2030. India, in fact, has strongly laid down the point that bringing in the elements of any new goal which are outside the mandate of the convention and its Paris Agreement is unacceptable. Staying with COP29, a group of former world leaders and climate experts are calling for major reforms to the United Nations COP climate talks, saying the process is too slow to address the climate crisis. In an open letter signed by figures like former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, they've urged a shift from negotiation to action. The call came amid tensions at COP29 in Baku, where around 200 nations are struggling to agree on key issues, including funding for developing countries. The presence of fossil fuel industry lobbyists has triggered protest at COP29. Carrying replica of snake, protesters said that it was like inviting tobacco companies to a conference on lung cancer. Former US Vice President Al Gore also slammed fossil fuel industries in furious remarks.
We just have to decide how long the world is going to cower in front of the financial and political power of the fossil fuel industry. If we can find it within ourselves in every country to come together and make intelligent choices, we can solve this.
Shifting focus to some other news, Valencia's regional leader Carlos Mazón apologized before Regional Assembly on Friday over the handling of Spain's deadliest floods in decades. The floods killed over 200 people and left thousands displaced in Spain. Earlier, thousands of people marched in Valencia to voice their anger at the authorities' handling of deadly floods and failing to provide urgent rescue and relief work.
There is no previous reference or experience that could be remotely comparable. All of this now explains why there was a widespread feeling that aid was not arriving or was insufficient. For this reason, as President of Generalitat, I want to apologize to those who felt that way. Because although the protocols that had been designed and tested many times in the past were applied, the response capabilities were not enough.
And now moving on to some sports news. Up first, cricket. After taking a 2-1 lead in the fourth match T20 International Series, India is all set to take on South Africa in the fourth and final match on Friday. Except for the second T20 match, India have outclassed South Africa and will hope to continue their form to seal the series 3-1. Indian skipper Suryakumar Yadav will eye his third straight T20 International Series win after assuming captain's role. On the other hand, the Proteas South Africa will go all out to secure a win in the final game and end the series 2-all draw. Staying with cricket, but this time domestic cricket, Indian pacer Anshul Kamboj has etched his name in record books as he becomes the third bowler in the history of domestic Ranji Trophy to take all 10 wickets in an innings on Friday. Kamboj, who plays for Indian state of Haryana, achieved the feat against Kerala. The right-arm seamer took 10 wickets for 49 in 30.1 overs and helped his team to bundle out Kerala for 291 on day 3. Earlier, Premaganshu Chatterjee of Bengal and Pradeep Sundaram of Rajasthan scalped 10 wickets in an innings. Chatterjee achieved the milestone of 1,957 against Assam, while Sundaram achieved the feat in 1985 against Vidarbha. Police have made 40 arrests at the tense football match between France and Israel in the Nations League game at Stade France on Thursday. The match took place under intense security after fans of Israeli club Maccabi Tel Aviv were attacked in Amsterdam last week. Around 4,000 police and members of the French security force patrolled inside and outside the stadium, assisted by 1,600 civilian security personnel. Stewards had to intervene at one point to stop fans of both nations from clashing in the stands. The match ended in a goalless draw, but the point earned was enough for France to qualify for the quarterfinals. A stunning bicycle kick from Antonio Sanabria and a second-half header from Omar Alderete gave Paraguay a well-earned 2-1 home win over Argentina in the South American World Cup qualifiers. Argentina took the lead 11 minutes into the game, and the home sides quickly equalized when Sanabria unleashed a superb kick that has left goalkeeper helpless. The shocked visitors struggled to find their feet, with captain Lionel Messi largely absent from the action for much of the first half and only managing one shot that went wide. 2 minutes into the second half, defender Alderete headed from a free kick to give Paraguay 2-1 lead. World Cup holders Argentina topped the standings with 22 points from 11 games and will host 9th placed Peru on Tuesday. Los Angeles Olympics officials have said that they have been in contact with the incoming Trump administration and are confident that the U.S. federal government will deliver on its promise to support the Games, which will be held in 2028. The federal government plays a key role in providing security, transportation, travel assistance for the Olympics. The Trump administration in 2017 enacted a travel ban on several countries due to security reasons. President Joe Biden ended the travel ban when he took office in 2021. Los Angeles Olympics chairman and President Cassie Wasserman said the Olympics are apolitical. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen that you can see and download now. We, of course, will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.